they called me in for a neurology meeting, and the surgeon was there, and he was saying, right, well, this is what you got going on. This is what we think. It's very deep in your head. So it's on my basal ganglia, so it's on my right hand side, really, really deep. Doesn't make it easily accessible to get in and do things to. And they were saying, oh, well, maybe we can go in, we'll do a biopsy. Maybe we can try and resect some of it at that point, which they then went on to say,
George, how did you find carnivore?
it's a very good question. I suppose it started a very long time ago. When I was at school, actually, I had a little bit of chub on me. Sadly, because of that, was bullied quite severely for pretty much my whole school time. And because of that, I started to look into my health and how I could try and improve it in whatever which way I could. And that led me down the paleo diet route, which kind of resonated in a lot of ways. I found that the ancestral way of eating just felt right. But I'm quite into my ecology, evolution, that side of things. So it just sat well with me. So I started the paleo diet and had good results with that. I started to lose a bit of weight, and it fostered this interest into the nutritional world, which ultimately transitioned more into a carnivore-esque. I was still having the odd fruit, veggies, some dairy, all of the other things, and every now and again, piece of cake or whatever it was. And then uh, last year in August, I was diagnosed with a low-grade glioma brain tumor, and that wasn't the easiest news to have, and it drove me to try and take control in whatever which way I could to fight it. Because I suppose the current cancer system is, hey, you've got cancer, we're going to take control, we're going to pump you with chemo, we're going to try and get in there, we're going to use radiotherapy. And it felt for me as though, oh, it was scary, really, is the idea of handing over that complete control to somebody else. And so for me, with it being low grade, with it being slow growing, I had the benefit of time and decided to just start researching. What can I do personally that might have an impact on this, give me the best chance possible? And that's where I started to come across fascinating research. Professor Thomas Seyfried, Chafee's research, or various different individuals that were all pointing towards, hey, maybe these veggies and carbs aren't actually necessarily doing us much good. And so I headed down this rabbit hole of carnivore and just went to the nth degree, trying to find out every little thing that I could. Then came across a chap in the UK called Andrew Scarborough. He's done a lot of research into cancers. It's his background, it's what he kind of does. But he was diagnosed with, I believe it was glioblastoma, which is, for those who don't know, it's the worst of the worst. It's a nasty thing to be diagnosed with. It kind of doubles every couple of weeks. Prognosis is not good. But he had surgery, resected as much as they could, and then headed down this route of carnivore. He's now doing very well, which is incredible. And ultimately, the idea is if you can cut out the glucose as much as you can, being one of the main fuel sources for cancers, then you're stunting that growth. Obviously, they run off to glucose and glutamine. You can do something about the glucose with low carb. You can't really do much about the glutamine unless you use certain drugs. So, yeah, that's where I've kind of started and ended up. And it's blown my mind coming across the individuals out there who have completely turned their lives around, just night and day. And that gives me hope. It gives me a drive to do as much as I can, try and get out there and share the information that I've come across, and maybe help others that are in a similar state or have other issues that may benefit from it.
So you mentioned control. I think that would be one of the things that would hit me the hardest, I think, if I ever got a diagnosis like that, whether it was cancer or something else, is like you just feel like, okay, I mean, in the traditional sense, you just feel like, well, as you say, the doctors are just going to take over and you've got no control. You've just got to go along for the ride. And it's just waiting for that next meeting with your doctor to find out what the news is going to be and all that kind of thing, right? So I think being able to take control and know that you can have some influence on what's going to happen is so important, right?
Oh, it's massive. I mean, ultimately, everything starts with your mindset and how you perceive these things. So, taking some responsibility for your own health and trying absolutely everything that you can ultimately changes your environment and changes the battlefield. So, I just I hated the idea of relinquishing my independence, my life choices. Oh, at the end of the day, they can't force these things upon you. It's down to the individual whether they do or don't. And in a lot of cases, it can be very beneficial and arguably should be used. But for me, in my case, I felt a responsibility to go, okay, this is happening. I've got a choice. I can either roll over and let this completely take over my entire life and give up, or the complete opposite and go, well, this is happening. I'm just gonna work with it. That's all we've got. So it's fascinating, really, the shift of, all right, my health, my choices. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's make something from this.
And so where do things stand at the moment? Like, have doctors been saying you need to start this drug or you need to do this or whatever, and how are things going?
They're actually going very well. I started carnivore about a week and a half post diagnosis. That first week was pretty traumatic. It was, oh my God, well, I was not expecting this. And then started carnivore. I'd had a scan when I first went into hospital. I'd been having partial seizures. So I went into hospital, they MRI'd and CT scanned me. And from that's why they found it in my head. But from the week and a half after, that's when I started carnivore. And then they've been doing every 3 months a scan. So I've had 4 scans in total, and currently the tumor is stable. It's not growing at all, which is phenomenal, really. It's doing very, very well. Uh, yeah, it's doing all right. It's doing all right. I think it's more about giving myself time to be able to see what I can do. Take that control, like we've been saying. Yeah, the originally they called me in for a neurology meeting, and the surgeon was there, and he was saying, "Right, well, this is what you got going on. This is what we think. It's very deep in your head. So it's on my basal ganglia, so it's on my right hand side, really, really deep. Doesn't make it easily accessible to get in and do things to." And they were saying, "Oh, well, maybe we can go in. We'll do a biopsy. Maybe we can try and resect some of it at that point." Which they then went on to say, so with it being on your basal ganglia, there is a reasonable chance that just by going in to do the biopsy, you could be left side paralyzed. And that pretty much closed the door for me in terms of going down that route. It's not a life I'd want to live. It's not a place I'd like to be in. Left side paralyzed. I'm a very fit, active person. I like to get out and do things that would just completely change my life. So that's one of the pushing factors also as well, is I don't really have a choice in that respect. I don't have any other option. It's either I go in, risk left side paralysis, which maybe further down the line, it may be something that I have to do. I may not have that choice, but right now I have the choice, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to roll with it, see what I can do. Use diet, lifestyle, fitness. I do a lot of cold water therapy, so all the Wim Hof stuff, throwing myself into lakes, things like that. Every day I have a cold shower, and then on top of that, on various different supplements and do breath work. So just trying to calm the nervous system, make rational decisions.
Right. And have the doctors, they're seeing there's no change after these 4 scans. Are they kind of happy with the approach of just like wait and watch and see how things are going, and we don't have to go further than that?
At this point, yeah, they're they're not too worried. There is a cystic component within it, which I think they're actually more worried about. So that has mildly grown, I think, by about 2 millimeters in coming up to the last year, which is very, very slow. That still carries the same risks of surgery. So if they go in to try and remove that's effectively the same as biopsy, which is great though. They've kind of gone, here, we'll watch and wait. We'll just see what happens and we'll go from there. But yeah, seem very happy considering.
So have you noticed improvements in just your general day-to-day life, like better sleep and things like that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big one. Big one is just the mental clarity. I feel very calm, collected. I don't feel anxious or rushed to do anything or aggressive. I think that's a big player in ultimately making the right choices for yourself, is not coming from a place of fear or a survival instinct, knee-jerk reactions. It allows you to step back, especially with the stress side of things. Minimizing stress as much as I can is huge for my health. My fitness has gone through the roof. So I have always had like a little bit of a rubber ring, like love handles and across the belly. And I've struggled and struggled and struggled to try and get rid of that. I wanted to see my abs, and I've been obviously going to the gym a lot, but also swapping that in with carnivore. That has pretty much completely dropped off now. My strength in the gym has gone through the roof as well, which is incredible. Sleep is reasonably good. Yeah, reasonably good. I do get these partial seizures, so every now and again I'll get one in the middle of the night, which wakes me up for an hour or two. But generally speaking, once I'm asleep, I'm dead to the world. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's nice. And yeah, I think that mental clarity and calmness, it is so good for making like objective decisions, just kind of assessing everything and making the right decision rather than feeling like this time pressure, like, oh, I've got to do something. I've got to make a decision, got to get this
Yeah,
finished and cleared up.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So, day to day, what's your eating plan?
So day to day, it's pretty much wake up. I'll have some form of eggs with some butter of some sort, generally five or six. Lunches, it'd be something mince based, generally, maybe throw in a little bit of chicken. And then dinner is some sort of steak, beef, somewhere along that. I do reasonable amount of hunting over here, so I run around with a bow chasing after goats and whatever else I can get. And yeah, so go through that and eat those as well. I think it's actually a really important part of carnivore as well, if you can do it in country, is being directly tied to your food and having the entire process being connected to where your food comes from. And so for me, it's quite a visceral thing to go and do. Is okay, I know I'm going out. I'm going to take whatever I can, harvest whatever I can. I know how it's died. I know it's had a great life up until that point. I know it's been a swift ending, and then completely involved with the whole track. And that gives you a sense of relief. I think that in some ways the disconnection we have from our food is quite awful, really. If you can, I think you should. I am very aware that I'm on this carnivore diet for the long term. At this point in time, it could be a very, very, very long time. Uh, Ultimately, that means that every now and again, I'll have something that I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, I should probably have some of that just to keep my head straight and not get bored of eggs and beef all the time. So sometimes I'll have some nuts, have the old Brazil nuts for the selenium. And that's about it. Yeah, I don't really stray. Sometimes some dairy, but generally not these days. And just keep it simple, you know.
Right. And for hunting in New Zealand, can you just kind of go out and do it, or do you need special licenses?
With a bow, you can pretty much just go out and do it. So there's a lot of Department of Conservation land which they actually encourage you to get out. So there's a massive pest problem over here. Basically, any mammal, pretty much any mammal, has been introduced at some point. So they're just causing chaos, eating all of the native trees. So they really try and drive it to get people out. With a bow, you don't need any licensing or anything. With firearms, obviously, you do. You have to go down the right tracks.
Interesting. So you've got a pretty big freezer?
We have a chest freezer, yeah, massive one in the garage. I've
Oh,
actually got a
nice.
friend who has a big one as well, so he has his own. It's nice, we just kind of share. So if he gets a goat, he'll give me some. If we get something else, it'll go that way as well. So it's lovely.
Oh, nice. Um, so have you had anyone kind of say, "How come you're only eating meat and eggs?"
Yeah. You get in a way, it's bizarre because ultimately it's your choice, isn't it? But the amount of people, especially medical, like, oh, but like what? They get all, they just can't compute that it's viable, it's possible. And, well, you haven't really eaten anything other than meat for the last near 12 months. I'm like, nope, nope, pretty much just animal products. Like, wow, but you look so healthy and like you're not withering away. And what are your poos like? It always comes down to what are your poos like, mate? It's bizarre, really, really bizarre. The doctors originally were a little bit concerned. They're like, okay, well, we'll get your bloods tested and we'll kind of try and keep track of that because yeah, we just want to keep track of that, which was very interesting because they came back and LDL and HDL were fine, triglycerides were very high, and the doc was like, okay, triglycerides are high, which is a little bit confusing, but then I changed GP. And she went through the bloods with me, and she's like, "Yeah, but that's normal on people who are doing keto, so you're fine. Don't worry about it." Which is always lovely to hear.
Oh, I see. So your triglycerides were high.
Yeah, they were a
Oh,
little
wow.
bit through the roof. I haven't had
Oh,
bloods done for ooh, coming up to 6 months now. So I
right,
don't know what
right.
they'd be like now. I should probably get them done again and see.
Yeah, I would imagine the longer you've been on it, probably the triglycerides would go down. Um, but yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's they're always a little bit high. I had done quite a heavy leg workout that morning, like a leg day. And so I'd then gone in pretty much straight away for my bloods. And having spoken to the GP and a couple of other people about it who know their stuff, they were saying, yeah, but you're going to be mobilizing your body fat stores anyway. So your triglycerides will be very high at that point. So don't worry about it. Get them done when you're rested and you haven't done any gallivanting around in the gym.
I see. Oh, okay. I'm just imagining the kind of the typical GP reaction. Is something like, "I know you're feeling better, but your cholesterol."
What are you
Yeah.
doing?
So, is there anyone you mentioned your friend is hunting with you. Is there anyone around you actually doing carnivore?
Uh, mm, no. not anyone that's hardcore. It's funny. My parents have come out to visit from the UK, and they've been living with me. And obviously, we've been chatting about it, and they've been asking questions, just trying to work out, what's it all about. They've now swapped over to keto, which is amazing. My sister is also now going, oh, this sounds right. This sounds good. So she's now going back onto it, and my other sister as well. So it's interesting how the ripples start moving out, and the more you talk about it and explain why and how and what and uh, the science behind it is the big thing. People want to know the ins and outs of what it does to their body, and also when you tell them that, and then they see you and like, oh, this guy's he's not dead, he's still here and he's doing really well. Then they seem to be a bit more open to giving it a go.
Yeah, it's the proof is really in the pudding, right? When they see the results in front of their eyes, they can't really argue with it, can they?
Oh no, no, not at all.
Yeah. And that's awesome that the whole family's on board, at least with keto. That's great.
Oh yeah, I think they've all jumped on mainly because they've seen a big difference, and they're well, originally when they first jumped on, it was more of a support. Like, okay, George is doing this. I want to do something to support him through this journey. So they all jumped on once I'd explained the details, the basics of it. But they all seem to be doing very well. Mum is feeling like clearer in the head. She's losing a little bit of weight. Dad's doing well as well. He actually went in for heart surgery for a triple bypass relatively recently, back in February. Um, he's now hopped onto keto, having research to see what it can do for him because he's diabetic as well. So he's off I think he's off almost all of his meds now for that, which is phenomenal. It's really good.
That's awesome. It's like when people can get off these lifetime meds, it's awesome.
Yeah. We started to look into things like statins and what they actually do and how I think the research, I may get this wrong, but it was something like if people take statins, it's something like it improves or it gives them an extra 5 days, sorry, on average. I was like, so why are you taking it when it makes you feel like absolutely awful and you're getting maybe 5 days out of that? Just bonkers.
Yeah, it's scary, and it's really scary when you find out how they kind of misrepresent how effective those drugs are by using relative risk as opposed to absolute risk, and don't have to disclose it. You know?
It's just crazy in some ways.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, they could say, "Oh, you've 50% less chance of having a heart attack if you take this." And it's like, "No, it's 1% chance less." But, depends how you look at it. Um,
Yeah.
wow, that's awesome. So were you diagnosed in the UK and then moved to New Zealand, or you got your diagnosis in New Zealand?
I was diagnosed in New Zealand. Yeah, I was diagnosed here. It was very odd. So in April last year, I randomly rolled over in bed and went into AF, atrial fibrillation, and it heart was just all over the show. So went to hospital and they ended up shocking me, cardioverting me back into to rhythm. And that was very odd. I was sat there going, why? What is happening there? Then a couple of months later, I had my first, I call them episodes rather than seizures. They come through a little bit more lighthearted. And seizure has a lot of connotations with rolling around on the floor, really not good. So I had this first, whoa, yeah, a bit dizzy, not entirely sure what's happening there. But just put it off to, oh, maybe my electrolytes are out or been not sleeping or something or other. And then I had another one. I was baking cookies at that point um, for a competition at work, which is a funny one. And at that point, I told my partner, who's a doctor, and she said, "Yeah, we're taking you to A&E. This is not right." And that was the night. Yeah, spent in hospital. They did all the scans, and life changed quite drastically from that point.
And so you mentioned your partner is a doctor. Like, how is she feeling about the path you've gone down?
she's joined me, so she's on
Oh,
carnivore. At least maybe not as strict. She's on keto, dabbling into carnivore, but she's all behind it. She actually went to a conference in London a few weeks ago called the Public Health Conference, and like they had seafood there, Chafee, Andy Scarborough, who I mentioned, all sorts of people talking about it. So she's well and truly behind it. And from that, she was saying, "Oh, I'm actually really interested in this low carb stuff. Maybe we should do some nutritional course based on that." And yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to both go down the nutritional course route. We've luckily got contact details for all of those individuals, hoping to be able to interview them on my channel, and kind of down that route, which is amazing. Got some really good advice from them as well.
oh, that's fantastic.
Really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and, when you're very close to a doctor, not just in a doctor-patient relationship with them, it's a lot easier for that doctor to kind of see the results and go, "Oh, yeah, it's definitely something that we should be considering," right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Having the ability for them to see the transition as well. You know, they're not seeing me maybe once every couple of weeks at most. It's more likely once every couple of months. Having that gradual transition that they're seeing the journey and the adjustments, so powerful, so powerful.
George, based on your experience, if someone came to you and said, "Look, I wanna try carnivore. What
Mm.
do I need to do?" What would you advise them to do as far as would you say transition in? Would you go cold turkey?
Oh, so somebody with no experience just jumping in from a standard diet. I would say the biggest thing you can do if you're going to be looking to do this sort of thing long term is just learn about it, learn about the physiology, learn about what it actually does, how and why. That's the sort of base that you work from. If you're just going in kind of blind, really, giving it a shot and see what happens, I feel that it's not sustainable. It's something that you give a go, you kind of listen to your body. You haven't got the knowledge to really implement it in a really effective way. So number one, get some knowledge, work out what it is, really spend some time, 2, 3 weeks, look into it as much as you can, make it part of your belief, I suppose, to work from. And then from there, I would recommend a transition. I wouldn't necessarily go cold turkey. I had one friend who did try and go cold turkey. They had a lot of toilet trouble, so they then jumped off. I would say just having that gradual transition gives your gut microbiome a chance to transition with you into that, be more, more sustainable, more efficient and effective. And I'd also recommend journaling, writing down what you're eating, how much, when, what, as much information as you can, but then also listening to your body and trying to work out what is going on. Am I having any issues anywhere? Are there any changes for the good anywhere? And then really thinking about that. Is it for me? Is it something you can do? Um, yeah, and then just enjoy it. You know, at the end of the day, is use your body as an experiment. Try something better than sitting there and questioning and regretting. Oh, maybe I could have lost the weight, or I could have come off the meds, or whatever it is. Learn about it. Start working out what it does to you, and then just roll with it and give it a decent amount of time, because it takes a reasonable amount of time for your body to adjust.
Right. Yeah, I like that advice, and especially the part about the journal. Like, I wish when I'd started, one of the things I'd done, as well as writing down what I was eating, is like how I was feeling immediately before starting, but then what was changing every day.
Mm,
Because like, "Oh, this pain's not there anymore when I wake up or get out of bed or whatever," or, all these things because I think the longer it goes when you don't have those pains anymore, the more you forget you ever had them, right? So I think for someone like me who's got a very addictive personality, like one little slip could mean the end of everything.
Hmm.
And so having that kind of journal there saying, remember, all these things improved, is like thinking back and going, yeah, okay, well, I just can't slip up, not at all,
Yeah.
because all that's going to come back.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think, yeah, the logging of what you're eating and how eh, is vital. So I use an app on my phone called Carb Manager, mainly because it gives you a real good breakdown on everything, like actually how much you're eating. It also has some decent recipes on there. I also am trying to be in therapeutic ketosis, so I measure my blood glucose and my ketones now at least once a week. At the start, when I was first transitioning, I was doing it at least 3 times a day, and that was trying to gauge, what is my blood doing pre post meals, after workouts, as much information as I can, and that gives me my glucose ketone index, which I need to, for the therapeutic side of things, to try and do as much as I can for the cancer. Need to be around 2 GKI, which is pretty hard consistently. But now that I've been doing carnivore for a good while, on average, I'm sat around that pretty much 24/7.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, yeah. So, George, if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way of finding you? Is it your channel?
Yeah, so I've started a channel. It's called Becoming George. The whole idea of it is ultimately to share my journey, my experience, my knowledge, but then also give people who might be in a similar situation or have their own troubles, not necessarily cancer, but something, kind of help them in whatever which way. I'm a big advocate for mindset. I've done a lot of mindset training. I work with a mentor every week. And I think everything that we do in life stems from how we perceive things. So I've created this channel. It's early days, but the idea is to get out there, try and help as many people as I can. On there is also in my description an email address. If you've got any questions, queries, ideas, just to ping me an email. Yeah, or comment on a video.
No worries. So I'll link to your channel in the show notes.
Oh,
George,
thank you.
really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and I hope you'll come back in maybe 3 months or 6 months and let us know how things are going.
I would absolutely love to. That would be amazing. Thank you so much.